All right, good afternoon. Thank you everyone for attending this panel discussion on AI and digitalizations on how it accelerates decarbonization in our energy industry. All right, my name is Firdaus, and together with me I have these two esteemed panelists, Izwan Ismail, Vice President of PETRONAS Group Technology and Commercializations, and David Rabley, Global Energy Strategy and Energy Transition Lead from Accenture. So basically, they will share their insights and their view on the latest application of AI, automations, and digital twins in the energy transitions, right? I think before we start, probably I can set some context here, right? I believe everyone in this room agreed that we have seen many AI and digitalization's effort in the energy industry. I think, from example, we have AI-driven predictive maintenance that prevents equipment failures, from the AI-enabled blockchain that to ensure that our data is transparent, accountable on our carbon footprints, and I have seen that these digital solutions has helped some of the companies to adopt more sustainable approach in more effectively. I think for example, maybe is when I can quote example from Petronas. We have many AI applications, many AI driven predictive maintenance that integrate data and process parameters so that we can get better insights, anomaly detection, time to failures, and I have seen this kind of technology has empowered the user to make more informed decisions, and directly impacting the business efficiencies and also as well as productivities. So my first question, probably you can start ask the panelists. So my first question is probably to David, right? I think most of the AI that we have seen so far impacts more towards equipment reliability, process improvements, and as well as workforce productivities. So how does with the similar effort of AI that we have done in the plant, in the equipment, how can machine learning AI optimize energy efficiencies and minimize carbon footprints?
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. Totally appreciate that, and very pleased to be joining on what seems to be shaping up to be a fantastic Monday here at CERAWeek in Houston. I heard AI referred to multiple times this morning on the main stage, and almost entirely in a positive light, right? So certainly seen by the industry as a next opportunity, a next frontier to drive efficiency and for energy to play the fullest possible role in contributing to society. If I cast my mind back maybe 6-12 months, I did hear at that point maybe more of a concern as well around the footprint of the AI and the energy consumption that might feed into that and how that was to be resolved. But I think my sense is we're now seeing a world where AI is a net positive for this industry. But in order for that to be truly the case, we need to make sure we're learning from the journey we've been on with digitalization.
Right.
And I think your question is cutting to the core of where are we going to see these gains?
Yeah.
And so an example I like to come back to is around methane. And part of today's discussion, I'm sure, is going to be, is gas going to be truly a destination or an end fuel? And in order for that answer to be 100% yes, we need to decarbonize that gas. And really that means driving methane to zero or near zero. In Accenture, we partner with the OGDC, right? I think PETRONAS is a member of that. I think it's a fantastic initiative. And what we're helping them do specifically is now embed data and AI-driven approaches into managing methane to get to near zero methane by 2030. And the reason why this is so important to us is because we don't believe that you can just detect your way out of methane. You can't just throw resources at addressing leaks. You actually have to turn that problem, if you like, on its head and ask, how can I anticipate? How can I predict? How can I use that data in a way not just to be reactive, but to actually anticipate those leaks? And that's where AI is starting to become extremely relevant. In Accenture, we partnered with satellite companies, for example, to help with the interpretation of what is now a vast amount of information and image data that previously wasn't there. And I think this is kind of where we're seeing the industry headed. We need to be starting to see how do we take advantage of the technology, of the data, not just for the problems of yesterday, but to harness it for the future. And so I'm very excited about doing this. And I honestly think that we're in a position now with AI that we can fundamentally address the footprint of the industry while driving performance.
Right. Thank you, David. And probably, Izwan, any thoughts from you, probably?
Yeah.
From Petronas lens?
Yeah, thank you, Eddie, and
Yeah.
thank you, David, for the sharing as well. I just want to echo some of the comments that you've made, and maybe also share some examples of how we've done it in Petronas and what we're aspiring to do as well. I think there's obviously tremendous opportunity for the industry to do more with AI, right? To the objectives that we just spoken about, energy efficiency, reducing carbon footprints as well. So for us, we're very excited at looking at it, especially because we do think that the industry is leaving money on the table actually. If we can just leverage more what's out there, especially with the pace of technology change as well. I think we think about AI is becoming more capable, more accessible, right? And also more scalable as well. So how do we as an industry adapt this more, right? So bringing it to Petronas, I think we are a global energy company. We do have, role as a custodian of resources in Malaysia as well. So the inspiration for us is how do we drive efficiency? How do you reduce our carbon footprint? And how do we have a lower carbon production as well? So how do you leverage from the vast data that we have over many years of operations, billions of data points to actually come up with new ways of doing things, right? So one of the focus areas for us is looking at production and process optimization to get some of these, aspiration objectives that we just spoke about. And I just want to, share some examples, right? I think one key one, I think we are one of the largest global LNG producer. We've got a big LNG plant in Malaysia, 30 million ton of LNG produced every year, right? So one of the things that we look at is how do you optimize this using machine learning and using the data that we have. There's actually 9 trains in our plant in Malaysia. So when you think about it, you do it in one train, it's scalable to 9 trains. So that ticks one box. And then we're looking at many things, but one areas that we look at, how do you optimize the use of gas? And the heart of any LNG plant is actually the main cryogenic heat exchanger. So and you have to use refrigerants, cool the natural gas down to minus 160 degrees, right? So one of the things that we do based on data that we have, what's the optimal gases mix to actually cool down the natural gas, the methane, ethane, nitrogen, and so on, right? So basically, with AI, it's really the approach of how do you replicate your best panel man across all different shifts, across all different operations under different conditions, right? So we're able to do it, find out kind of an optimal gas mix to cool down the LNG, trial it out first, obviously, and then roll it out over the 9 trains that we have, right? And there are clear benefits, obviously. I think over the 1 year, I think we reduced carbon footprint by about 200,000 tons. That's a lot because we do produce a lot of LNG. At the same time, you have excess gas as well. It's always good to have excess gas in an LNG plant, so you produce more LNG. So it's a win-win situation, I would say, in terms of reducing carbon footprint, getting more revenue, being more energy efficient as well. So I think with AI, while there are certain challenges to scale it up, I think the benefits are very clear, especially with the way, the rapid way that tech's moving. I think that's the way to go. And we'll just have to go with the journey and see how do we come up with more use cases that create more value, but also in a way, more importantly, what's the latest technology out there? And this way, I guess Accenture can help us to apply to more situations in a company to create value for the industry and for any organization that we are from.
Right. Thank you, David and Izwan. and I think I think we have seen values in the investment of AI, and I do believe that AI and digital can actually help us to transition more faster. And looking at the previous experience in implementing digital, right, there are many challenges. I think it's not a straightforward approach. It's not plug and play kind of applications. There are many roadblocks. There are many complex integration that I think we need to anticipate it, right? So I want to continue with Izwan. So in your view, right, and with what we have seen so far, what are the barriers to scale digital solutions across the energy sector, and what are the mitigation that I think we should look at holistically, right?
Okay. Thanks, Eddie. I'll start, and then I guess David, you pick it up from there. The same theme that we spoke about earlier, right? We find the right use cases, but how do you scale it up? Because one pilot project doesn't quite give you the value that you want, especially in a big organization. I think for me, I'll go back to the basics. I think the first barriers to scaling up is data quality that you have in terms of how consistent the quality of data, how clean it is for you to be able to run all the analytics, right? And for big organization, it can be a challenge because you've got data across many different companies, different entities, different operating units, and how do you make sense of all of it, right? So one of the biggest barrier, I guess, is trying to ensure that you've got a consistent set of data that you can actually use and you try and derive insights from. So from the PETRONAS experience, I think a couple of years back, I think we have invested quite a bit in building an enterprise data hub, right? Data lake, so that we put everything together. But along the journey, we found out that maybe trying to put everything in one place may not be the most optimal solution as well. So one of the other data management techniques that we do is data virtualization, basically trying to get data from many sources, but as far as applications are concerned, they are looking at it as though they're taking it from one source, right? So different techniques that you can use. But I think that's clearly one big barrier of trying to scale up. But it also leads to another barrier, which is to do all this, it costs money, right? So the investments that's needed to actually have the right environment, you're going to have to invest in new softwares, new hardwares, skilled manpowers as well. So that takes time, takes resources to actually invest, especially if you have legacy systems that may not be as easy to integrate with new digital solution. So that's a barrier that we need to overcome as well. And we're just talking, David, in the room, when we're trying to get new investment, especially for digital solutions, how do you actually make the business case? Because the ROI is a bit more, I guess, less tangible from drilling a well or, spending on a new equipment or machinery as well, right? So one of the struggles as well is how do you get to a tangible financial value that you can then use as a business case to justify a lot of these digital investments as well. As I said, this requires a lot of investments and money. So for the smaller companies, it is actually a much more difficult hurdle, and hence again a barrier to scaling this up across the industry. I think I'll end with one other challenges I would say is in terms of the workforce itself, right? So again, we hear this morning from one of our speakers during the opening session, workforce. I will look at it in two ways. One is workforce capabilities, right? In the industry, we are not quite digital natives, so especially at my age, your age, David, we don't grow up with phones that we can just swipe. So I guess for the workforce, to raise up the capability in terms of training, awareness, acceptance of digital and AI. But I will also say potentially resistance to change, because you can see AI as a threat as well. You spoke about a year ago, the tone is a bit different, but I'm sure in our organizations, your organizations as well, there's always going to be that portion of employees saying, are they going to replace us? Is my jobs at risk? So trying to break all these barriers through training, awareness of what value AI can create. So I think that will be the barriers that I can, I guess, think of and share with the attendants today.
All right. Thank you, Izwan. I think the question the question about talent, right? On your remarks, probably I want to later ask David, but probably David, probably you want to continue from my second question to Izwan on the barriers in scaling digital. So, any thought on that, David?
No, absolutely. And Ishwan, congratulations on a fantastic answer. Because I'm honestly sitting here thinking, oh, have you covered a lot of the main points? And I totally agree. Now, but let me set a slightly different tone, right? I know we will all be scrutinizing, is there scale value? Is there? But in some ways, I'm going to come at it slightly differently, which is there absolutely is. And I think it is absolutely essential for us to be figuring out those ways to move forward, right? This technology is standing not just by itself, but it's standing in many ways on the shoulders of all of the programs that we've been building over the years. And so when you think about, well, how come we didn't quite nail predictive maintenance, or how come we haven't, fully figured out, what do I produce in my refinery when crude is doing X and the products market is doing Y? This is an extra step. I believe there'll be other steps, right? We're going to be on this journey probably for the rest of our careers. But, I like how you started with the data, right? I think that is going to continue to be, that the core of this challenge. Without the right data, we will not find the right value. And what we're seeing in Accenture actually is that 99% of data is actually going to be available to anyone. Right? So it's non-proprietary data that is not inside of your systems. Right? You have 1% of data, though, which is proprietary. Right? PETRONAS has 1% of data that nobody else knows. Right? That informs your models, your processes, and it's going to be very, very important that you can recognize that difference and harness value from that. You're going to find ways to democratize that data. Our industry is one where accountability is absolutely essential. Right? We deal with product that needs to be contained. We deal with geopolitical challenges day in, day out. So we have a very strong lines of accountability. However, when you think of applying AI, you're actually asking, can I rely on a different function? Can I rely on somebody else who doesn't necessarily report to me? And so we're challenging a little bit the governance, the way that we do things. Now, what we see though also is starting with value, leading with the value that matters. Many companies have found it relatively easy to spool up hundreds, if not thousands, of use cases. But how they connect it to an agenda that moves the market price of your enterprise or moves the EBITDA on a quarterly basis seems to be quite elusive. And so what we're seeing with the leading examples now is companies are coming at it the other way. They're saying, let's take these 1,000 initiatives down to the 5 things that matter. Let's make sure we know how they materially change the metrics that matter to us, and we'll get behind that. In a recent Accenture survey, we found that those programs that are structured that way, with involvement of a CEO or a CEO of that part of the business, can typically see 2.5 times the value of those programs that don't have that type of governance. I could go on, but maybe to come back to your point on talent.
Yeah.
So talent, maybe 2 ways to think of talent. So one, you might be thinking of who's the kind of clever coder that is you're going to extract from their hyperscaler job and bring them in-house. But let's start with the smaller question, just of adoption, just of familiarity. Because if AI doesn't have the opportunity to change how work is done, change the process, and change how people are engaging with that, it's not going to get adopted, and it's not going to deliver the value. So it's very, very important to really think about, as you apply AI to something, is that process actually changing? Yes or no? And are the people who are super involved in its success, are they comfortable to use this? So at that level, I think there isn't a single person in an organization like PETRONAS who doesn't need to be thinking about how they interact with this technology and this solution. But in terms of the other question on talent, I remain an optimist for this industry, because what this industry has is some of the most challenging tasks, bits of an analytical reasoning, logic, problems, whatever, that need to be solved. And they do need to be solved for society. They need to be solved at the national level. They need to be solved across industries. And I honestly believe that our generation, the next generation, are going to be inspired by having access to that data, by having access to those problems. Everybody in this room has, I think, the opportunity to have an inspirational set of challenges for technology to respond to. I mean, a good friend of mine, we were talking about where does their son want to go for, after they graduated from Duke, from computer science. And he was telling me, he really, really wants to go to Duolingo. It's like, why would anyone want to go to Duolingo? And he was explaining to me that actually the AI in Duolingo, which is a language app, is some of the most advanced out there. And they can be ultra selective because they're pushing that frontier. And so I think when we look at the role that a company like a PETRONAS plays in the national debate, or the prominence globally, but also in Asia, we have every opportunity to be inspirational and to find those types of problems, to have that data that are going to be impactful for the next generation. And I'm excited that we'll be able to deliver that and to deliver value at scale.
And do you think that the energy sector is now competing with technology firms, tech firm on the talent? I mean, in terms of attracting talents that has that capability in just now you mentioned about geolingual, right? So do you see it's something that it's coming to energy sector?
I think it's coming on multiple dimensions, and one of them is the tech companies are actually competing with energy as well. So today, Google was on the stage. There's going to be a big, there's an AWS house, very close to here. But in some ways, energy is becoming one of the, if not the most important supply chain question for the future of these companies. And so as a result, their leaders are entering into partnerships with organizations like Accenture, with PETRONAS, exploring the role of gas, of nuclear, of geothermal. And so actually, I think it's working both ways, right? They are building talent in their organizations to be, in essence, an energy strategic player, but they're also understanding the impact of that. It's often quoted that a GPT search is 8 to 10 times more energy intensive than a Google search. So I went back, I was like, well, what does that really mean? So I actually spent a few minutes finding out what it meant, which it means that every time you search on ChatGPT, just a basic search, it's the same as leaving a light bulb on for 1 minute and 48 seconds, okay, just in real terms. So we're reaching now a point where the agents plus society are going to be consuming vast amounts of energy, and these deep queries are way, way more energy intensive. But I actually think here we are, we're in a scenario now where we have to offer those problems to be solved by the industry, and we have to find those partnerships. And I think if we can do that, it's AI for energy, energy for AI, and these types of examples. But also I think a much, much more exciting and hopefully lower carbon footprint future for all of us.
All right, it's a great answer. Thank you, Izwan. Thank you, David. I guess, gentlemen, we have reached the end of the conversations. Again, thank you everyone to the panelists for your valuable insights, and I think this discussion has highlighted the significant impact on AI to our energy transitions. There are many challenges, so I think moving forward we can have a better session, we can have a better collaborations, so that we as an energy industry can navigate the future for our energy together. Again, thank you once again, and have a great day. Thank you everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.